Alright, today on the Frozen Fly, what we will be tying is a classic space style fly. To start off, we will start off with a Daiichi 2051, size 1.5. And thread I'm using is a fluorescent fire orange UTC Ultra thread, 210 denier, and then a black similar denier, some ancient thread that I've gotten from my kit. So to start off, I tie it in just a little bit back towards, on the back side from the halfway point, just a little bit past that. You could tie in right at the halfway point and it'd still work fine. So we will continue our thread wraps towards the rear. Until we get just a little bit past the barb of the hook. So I'm maybe an eye length past the barb of the hook. And I'm using a piece of golden tinsel. And we'll go ahead and tie that in back here. I'm using very little piece because we're only going to be doing a couple wraps with it. Securing that in. I'm bringing my thread back to the barb of the hook. And I am now wrapping the tinsel up the shank of the hook. Try to get my camera to focus. So this takes a little bit of doing to do, because the tinsel wants to slide on the floss, or the thread floss, whatever you want to call it. So it takes a little bit of doing to get it to lay down all right. But take your time, be patient. It's all worth it in the end. Makes a good looking fly. I like to take a pair of hack pliers sometimes. Especially when it's getting really short. It likes to be difficult. So then I'm going to tie it off. Check my work on the no-show side. Yep, looks good. Tighten my vise back up. Get my camera to focus again. Go sit a little closer to the fly. Make it a little harder to tie, but hopefully it'll keep the camera a little bit better focused. Maybe I'll sit farther back. That help? Nope. Opposite effect. Alright. The issue is with this camera, it tries to autofocus. And when it does that, obviously it wants to go for the thing that's taking up 75% of the camera, which is me. So now what we're going to do is I'm taking 2 pieces of white Acero. Usually with this pattern, what they usually do is a bluish turquoise, or not turquoise, a bluish indigo, so it's like a bluish purple. I just use what I got, which is this white Acero. You could actually probably use Peacock Arrow and it would look pretty good. Be a cool effect, I think. But I'm keeping this a little bit traditional. Nope, I lied. So we have to actually go back. We have to tie in our tail. So for our tail, actually, what I will be using is some golden pheasant tippets. So pull out a stack, pull it off at a 90, want just a little bit more than what I got. So pull off a few more. They would also, if you're trying to do something really traditional, this is when they would put in golden pheasant crest. But I'm saving all my crest for some super traditional, or what I consider super traditional, where you have the curved pieces. So I got probably dozen fibers, depending on your golden pheasant fibers. That could depend on how much. So I'm going to tie in, well, it's probably about half a hook shank length. I got some laying around, so I'm actually going to tie in a little bit of Crystal Flash just to do something different, since I got some just laying out right here from pike fly I was experimenting with. Experiment was, I guess, somewhat successful. I don't have a video on it. It was just me experimenting with a new method. So I'm just going to add in, I got 3 fibers I folded in half. I'm going to add those in too. Just to add a little bit of something something. I'm going to trim off some of this excess. Garbage can here. So quick secure this in. And now is when you tie in your white herald. I'm kind of tying this in backwards, just to minimize the amount of thread that I have up throughout the body here. So I'll wrap this all the way back to where the golden tinsel was. And do a rough wrap back up. Basically, you're just going to do definitely less than an eye length. Just a couple of wraps. To add a little froof, what I call froof. You guys will hear a lot of weird words from me in my videos, and I have a very unique vocabulary of describing words. So we went ahead and tied off our herald. Sometimes you can just snap them off. This one I've only got a couple of wraps there. So I'm going to actually snip them. So this is kind of where we're at right now. Let me change how this light is here. I think that might be adding an issue. A little bit better. So you can see right about in here, we got that little piece of froof. That's because that's on the no-show side of me here. Just kind of angled down. So I'm just going to turn my vise quick. And just lay that back down. Camera's not wanting to stay focused. See if I can't get it to focus here. Stay there. Perfect. Stay there. So, now we have our herald tied in. we have our tail tied in, and then we have ourselves a little bit of golden tinsel down in here. So now what we will tie in is our old tinsel. This is what I have for over tinsel, again, from a I got this from a kit, a very old kit, so I couldn't even tell you the size. I've looked it up and can't even find a size for it. So, I mean, I use what I got. Normally a medium old tinsel is what you would use. So, I'm going to tie that in. And then I am going to tie in my rear hackle. For that, I am using a fluorescent or a orange, a large orange. Actually, this might be a little too large. Nah, this should work. Yeah, it should actually work pretty good. This is probably the biggest orange of my strung neck hackle that I got. So then what you're gonna do is you see all this fruit down here in the back. You're gonna actually pull that right off. This one is actually kind of nice. It's got some nice long fibers in there. I'm actually going to save these and use it for some throat pieces for some streamers. But I don't need it for this fly. Minimal amount of fruit. If you look, if I can get my camera to focus here, I still got a little bit right in this area in here. That's okay. It won't be as easy to see. So with these ones, you're going to tie it in on the tip. And actually this one has a broken tip on it. It's got that V. But there's enough there that I'll be able to tie it in. So you just lay it on. You're gonna pull back some of the fibers. These can be kind of a pain to tie in sometimes just because the fibers don't want to lay down. Usually what you do is you actually grab the fibers opposed to the stem when you tie it in. And it holds enough that you can do what you need to. So actually I have to go ahead and trim off a few more fibers here so I can get to the stem. So now I just kind of exposed just a very, very little bit of the stem, less than 1/8 of an inch. Just enough for me to grab with my thread without pinching too many fibers to where I have to do a bunch of trimming. So I kind of, I'm laying this in here to where one side's really easy. And then the other side will be kind of bare. Missed it. So actually I trapped a bunch of the fibers. So now I'm just going to take a bodkin. What I use is just a plain old sewing needle. Use that to get out those pieces. These space style flies definitely take some time until you get kind of used to them. And you definitely want to take your time on them just so that they look good. I fish these flies some. Funny story is I don't actually catch that many fish on them. I've actually caught more big trout than I fish Easter salmon and steelhead usually. I've caught more big trout using them than I have salmon and steelhead. This damn camera won't stay focused. Come on. Here we go. Try sitting a little closer to it. It's gonna be kind of a pain for tying, but you guys will be able to see. So now I'm just taking a very little bit of dubbing. I am using Sinu's fluorescent hot orange laser dub. So take a little bit of this. What I'm doing is I'm pulling my thread out so that I'm not catching these fibers of my feather, of my hackle. I'm actually going to use a little bit of wax. I'm using the high tack. I don't know if the high tack is definitely what you would want to use. I'm still experimenting with wax. I just recently got some. It's actually the first set of wax I've actually bought. It's kind of nice with the dubbing. I place it. The thing with the wax is that once you put it on, your dubbing isn't going to move. So you got to be careful with where you put it. Because you definitely want, with these, you want some of your dubbing to move so that you can move it right up to the fly, so that as soon as you start twisting, or once you start putting threads on, your dubbing's going on. So that, again, you're not having much thread there to add mass. So we're gonna do a few wraps up. Keep it kind of tight. Just go work our way up to the halfway point. I need just a little bit more. This dubbing body's a little big, but fish won't really mind, I don't think. Some of your really classic spays, like the one, if you look up the Fly Fisher, like that one is what I call a really traditional style spay. Ones like those actually don't even use much dubbing at all in the body, but these ones I use dubbing. This is what it is. So now we're up to this point. So we're going to take our hackle and counter wrap to help keep it kind of strong. So I dubbed up basically to the halfway point. This is a really nice feather, so I want to get as much of this hackle as I can in here. Trying to keep all my wraps kind of even Steven. Nice thing is with this long stem, makes it really nice and easy for wrapping. So I need to go back and put my wraps a little closer this time. I like a really thick hackle. Some people don't, some people do. It's just kind of on your preference. This is a nice feather, and I'm not going to use just a few fibers. It's going to be a pain to save, so I'm using this whole feather. Make it look extra shrimpy. If someone says your spay fly looks shrimpy, that's a compliment somehow. Don't ask me how. I don't know the history of spay flies that much. But I was told from a expert, what I consider an expert, this guy ties amazing flies, that it looks shrimpy. And I said, is that a compliment? And he said, definitely. So if someone calls your flies shrimpy, it's a compliment. It's kind of like being called, it's kind of like having a fly that's buggy, I guess. So we'll go to tie off our hackle here. I'm just kind of pushing these fibers down so that I'm not trapping them going forward. So I put in a few good wraps. Trim off my stem. So now we take our tinsel and going the normal way, we're going to wrap, and I'll do this kind of to where you guys can see. So basically when I wrap, I'm moving my thread around to try to reduce the number of fibers that I'm catching. I'm kind of doing a circular brush in your teeth motion. It seems to kind of work good for me. You kind of have to figure out yourself what works for you. My thread is not enjoying this, but, or my bobbin, I mean, it's going all nuts. Alright, so we got ourselves some wraps in here. I got about 5. That's actually about perfect. I got lucky enough to get that about perfect this time. So go ahead and tie off our tinsel. We will snip this off. Secure my vise. I got an older style vise where I have to use a nut to tie it back. So basically my fibers are going just a little short of where our tail is, where our fibers are on our tail, which is actually just about perfect. So I'm going to do, I notice I have a really thick stem on this and it's wanting to move. So I'm going to add a few extra really tight wraps just to make sure this thing doesn't come apart. And here comes the hardest part. We're going to switch bobbins. Alright, so to continue. Here comes the hardest part. We're going to switch bobbins. I did this for a long time with just one bobbin. So basically if you're going to do this with one bobbin, what I always did is I take my pair of hackle pliers, I put it on here, and then I'd cut between my bobbin here so that you have something that's giving you a little weight. I'd switch threads and then tie it in. But I recently bought a second bobbin. Thread come out of it, of course. Nothing's easy when you got a camera in front of you. Everything likes to mess up. So, thread this bobbin real quick. I don't use bobbin threaders, I just suck the line through, suck the thread through. Sounds kind of gross, might be a little gross, but it's what a lot of people do. You can buy bobbin threaders, but why spend the money? That could be other materials. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my thread, tie it in just a little bit above, and bring them rearward. So now I got both on here. And just cross it. and bring it back to where you tied in your feather and whatnot. Once you do that, you cut it off. And now you're back to one. So make sure I got this all tied off good. Oh, ain't that a bummer. So I snapped the thread. This is still kind of a new bobbin for me. I'm actually going to switch to my good bobbin when I know my pull strength on and stuff like that. So when you snap them like that, usually you want to take your scissors and cut off the top of the thread, just because when you break it, you have a bunch of little hairs that'll stop it. I got two different style bobbins. One's got like these plastic little beads that are in the way. So it makes it kind of hard to get it through without sucking. And it sometimes takes a few tries. And a few more tries before you get it. Just a thing where you keep going until you get it. Usually you can get it in the first few, but of course with that camera sitting in front of you, you can never get it right. There we go. So carefully, you'll go ahead and tie back in and try to catch our thread here. Okay, I think I got that all caught back. Trim off my extra fibers here from when I broke off and from when I just retied in. I was more worried about getting the thread caught so it didn't spin off. So yeah, just a real rough layer here. Alright. So now what we will do is we will tie in our oval tinsel again. We'll tie it in right back where we basically stopped last time. So for me, that's right here on this side. Sometimes you gotta spin the fly around. Usually though, just out of fly tier's habit, it'll be on your side. So I'll retie that back in. Don't ask me why we cut it off. I just know it's proper procedure. We will then take ourselves a piece of flat tinsel, and I'm cutting off probably a little too long of a piece, but I always save my extras and use them for whatnot, so I got probably 2 to 3 inch piece that's let me see here, it's probably medium silver tinsel. We'll tie that in right on top of our oval tinsel. And then we will go ahead and tie in our spave hackle. I'm using a blue-eared pheasant. When you check the length, you want your fibers to be right about to the tail again. Basically everything goes to the tail. And this one has all the hackles at the tip. Again, you tie this in at the tip. So once you tie this in at the tip, you can secure it a little bit better with a few more wraps. I trim off the hackles or the fibers that I used to tie in with. My hand will sit still. There we go. Alright, so you'll notice that there was a gap. I had some camera issues. So basically what I have done is I have tied off the orange thread, tied that off with this new black thread. I went and re-tied in our orange tinsel, oval tinsel, and then on top of that I tied in a piece of flat silver tinsel, and then I tied in our spade hackle. The comments I had about the spade hackle were that I tied it in by the tip and then I just trimmed off the fibers from that. And that's pretty much where we are right now. So now what I will do is I'll go ahead and tie in, or I'm sorry, not tie in, but twist on some ice stub. This is a red bloody black. I like this color. So spread it out. When I tied in the oval tinsel and when I first tied in everything, I only did a couple of wraps, just enough to hold it there, so that when I come in with the dubbing is the main thing that's really kind of holding it, the wraps from the dubbing itself, just to again eliminate some of the wraps that we have there. So then I will tie this in going up. Hopefully you'll notice the camera will be in focus a little bit more too. I figured out how to get this thing to manual focus to where the focus won't be changing a bunch. So hopefully the focus will work. I don't have a good macro lens on here to get the up close and personal shots, but it'll work. Hopefully. So, just kind of wrap in some dubbing here. I'm about another eye length from the top of the hook. So then what we will do is we will put in our oval tinsel first. And actually we will counter wrap this. So I gotta go this way. Again, probably about 5 wraps. And tie it off. And then we will go ahead and wrap in our spade hackle. Sorry about the background noise. And we will counter wrap this. This, you'll only get a few wraps out of it, so make sure you use them wisely. You get between 3 and 5 wraps. tie that off. Basically what I'm just doing is kind of help getting some of these fibers to separate from each other. Sometimes they want to stick together just a little bit. So I'm just kind of helping pull them apart just a hair. I'm not trying to bend anything or break anything. Just enough to help get everything moved apart nicely. Go ahead and trim that. And then any big fluffy feathers or pieces, I just trim right out. So just making sure it's wrapped in there pretty good. And then we will bring in our flat tinsel, and when we bring that in, we just bring that in similar to how we did the last the oval tinsel on the rear half. We bring that and do our kind of circles here to cross, so that basically this almost holds in all of this hackle, helps secure it some. I'm going to use my hackle pliers just to make it a little bit easier on myself. These flies do take some time to tie, just because you gotta be so careful. Just to make them look nice. Trying to trap the least number of fibers as I can. I'll use my bodkin, pull out some of the fibers that I've trapped. I see a spot where it doesn't look like the tinsel's laying down very well. I gotta tighten back down my vise. And then tie off my tinsel. I always found tinsel to be the bane of my existence. Fly tying. I don't know. I've always had some trouble with it. So now we have where our spay hackle is in. All of our tinsels are in. So basically our spay hackle goes basically to the tail. Hopefully you guys will be able to see that. Back it out just a hair here. See if I can get this into focus right. Spay hackle kind of blends in with my shirt, so kind of hard to see. You can see some of it down here where it's a little bit heavier. I'm actually going to spread that out now that I've noticed it. Kind of want it to be all over. Go turn off this light quick and see if that helps you guys. That actually does help a little bit. Doesn't wash out all the color. Back it out a little bit here. Alright, so now what we will do is we'll take a guinea fowl feather and we will tie that in. Again, tie it in at the tip. trim off kind of some of those tip fibers. Again, I'm about an eye length away from the eye of the hook, maybe a little bit more, probably a little bit more. Probably an eye and a half. So I have that tied in. I do not have any jungle cock feathers. So what I am using instead is off from a Lady Amherst pheasant. I'm using some of these feathers in here. Decent substitute. Basically it comes in a big piece of fruit. It actually has, it's almost like a herald piece on it that I'll be experimenting with, trying to see if that will replace some herald on some flies, because it's really thick and big and bushy, so it could make a really nice herald. This other stuff that's on the stem, I'm just peeling off. I got one already done, but I wanted to kind of show you guys once I got it trimmed. So you just want, I'm actually trimming off some of the actual feathers that are some of the good feathers to make this a little bit smaller. Trying to even it up right now. So I made it even smaller. So that's about perfect. So I tie it in a little long. It's actually probably better to tie these in before you put in the guinea fowl. Reason I tied in the guinea fowl first because I hardly ever tie cheeks. But for you guys, I'll tie in a cheek. So there's one, and then I already have another set up. I just gotta shrink it down a little bit. So then once you get them tied in, you can go ahead and move it to where it's on the side and pull it down carefully. I backed up the thread. And basically what I'm doing is I'm pulling it. You'll see on this side, basically what I'm doing is I'm pulling it to where it just looks kind of right. Kind of hard to explain what I'm looking for. It's kind of puffed out on the side. It's tough to tell. Let's see if I can zoom in here, show you guys. So it's kind of hard to tell. Let me see if I can't mess with the focus here. Yeah, that ain't helping matters. Basically, it's just barely puffed out. Bring my camera back here. So once I get them just kind of puffed out, I'll tie them in real good. I actually have a little bit of the fibers up in here, so I got to trim those out so that I'm not crowding the eye. So I'm actually left with a little bit of something on the ends of these. Just throw those out. So now we're almost done. So now what we will do is we'll take some more of this red and black dubbing, this blood ice dub, this black and blood ice UV ice dub. We'll Go ahead and twist that on. Very little amount. You're just getting, because you're getting real close to your head here. You're still probably close to an eye length away. As you get better, you'll adjust it to yourself, because we still have our wings to tie in. And my thing has moved. Alright, that's where I left it. I can't remember. So now what we'll do is we will go ahead and put on our piece of guinea fowl. I personally like a really thick guinea fowl hackle here. Customize it to yourself. Do I think it catches more fish? Not particularly. I just think it looks better. These can sometimes be a pain to tie in. Sometimes you gotta pull the fibers back to get them to kind of lay the right way. And basically these are as tight of wraps as you can get, like tight as in right next to each other. So then when I tie this off, I'm actually laying on top of the hackles that I put down just to keep them pushing back. I'll help push some of these feathers back. Then tie them off so that they're all kind of laid back. Make a nice kind of collar. So now we will go ahead and tie in our wings. For me, I am using, I'll turn back on the light here. For me, I am using the tail of a Lady Amherst pheasant, the lighter version of the tail. And so basically, you're tying, they're really tricky to tie in. You're kind of trying to tie them, if this is your hook, if this is your hook, you're almost trying to tie them in like this. My fingers bend the right way here. You're just trying to get them to curve almost on the top, almost make like a shell back. Put my scissors back where I'll find them here. Can be quite tricky. It can take people forever to lay them the right way. I just kind of, I hate to say it, I almost just throw them on. Because it doesn't, it makes or break the presentability of the fly if you are trying to put it in a showcase. But I really don't think the fish care if you're trying to make it for fishing. Some people like to put these in showcases. I'm actually working on a showcase that is a coffee table. The length of these I am making about to the rear of the hook. You really can't make them too long or too short as long as they're symmetrical. So just take a quick peek. Those are actually probably some of the best tied in. I'm going to quick secure them down before I show you guys. I left in some of the fibers when I trimmed off there just to help keep a good taper. This one's going to have a big tapered head, but oh well. I'll probably finish it off with some glow-in-the-dark UV epoxy. So we'll go ahead, and once I find my whip finish, Found it. Keep my fibers back here. We'll go ahead and whip finish. Snug it down. I sharpened the ends of my whip finish tool. It actually helps with like that. You don't have to set those down and get all your stuff. If you were doing with golden pheasant crest, these are like a golden pheasant crest. You would do one that lays like this, and then one that lays the opposite way. These are actually some neck hackles that I found that really are like crests. It's kind of weird, but you would kind of make a half moon shape and you'd lay your wing in there. Show you the wing. Let me loosen up my vise here. I can twist it this way. Show you guys. Use my little viewport the best that I can. It's hard to tell. I wish I used actually different colors in the head here, but it all looks the same kinda. I use my bodkin here, help lift these up, show you guys. So here's one right here. Wow, you really can't tell on the camera. But I got one right here. It's kind of angled the wrong way towards you guys, but how am I going to show you guys this? Because these are laid down pretty well. I'll take some high-def photos and I will add them onto the end of this video and show you guys. So basically the last thing I'm going to be doing here is using some of the thin UV Solarez to finish off this head. And then after this video, I don't have this stuff actually with me today. After this video, I will go ahead and finish, do another coat of UV on the head here. That will be just Solarez's UV Glow epoxy, just because I have a big head on it. Do I think the glow helps or hurts? Doesn't make a difference. This one might go in the showcase too. I don't know yet. See how I feel when I get the case done. I don't know. See how I feel when the case is done. So basically I've got the UV on. Basically I'm just kind of waiting for it to kind of soak in since it is the thin. I'm twisting it around a little bit too, just to help make it all nice and smooth across. Make sure my wings are kind of placed, because sometimes what will happen is when you glue it, wings will not move at all. So before you cure your glue, make sure your wings are exactly how you want them. Give it a good quick look, make sure everything looks even. Get my new UV Loon Infinity light. Give it a good cure. I'll cure it a little bit more after the video, but you guys get the point. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, subscribe, and if I don't see you guys out on the woods or in the water, hopefully I'll catch you here next time on The Frozen Fly.